Well, hello again. We are back again to look at another case of grammar. This time we are going to be looking at nominative and objective case pronouns. I have given you a quick list here. Nominative case pronouns are I, he, she, we, they, who, and whoever. Objective case pronouns are me, him, her, us, them, whom, and whomever. Please write these down as they will help you as we proceed through the video. The nominative case pronouns are words that replace a noun, but only in the place of a subject or a subject complement. These are also known as predicate adjectives or predicate nouns, which you might have learned in middle school. Objective case pronouns are words that replace a noun as well, but this time they only replace it as if they are the direct object, the object of the prepositional phrase, or an indirect object. Now we understand that some of the previous terminology that I have used may be things that you are not very familiar with. So I have come up with an order of operations that works extremely well. However, the caveat is that you must follow these order of operations. I would highly suggest you copy this chart before we move on. What this chart means is that you will always begin with a prepositional phrase. If you must choose a pronoun inside a prepositional phrase, you will always choose from the objective side. If it's not in your prepositional phrase, then you would go on to look for your subject. If you are choosing a pronoun from the subject side, then you would choose a nominative case pronoun. If, however, your pronoun choice is not in the prepositional phrase and it's not the subject of the sentence, then you must go on to look for the verb. Please remember that a verb can be 1 through 4 words depending on if it's a simple verb or a verb phrase. Once you have found the complete verb phrase, you are then going to look at the very last word of that verb phrase to determine if it's an action verb or a being verb. If that very last word is listed as one of the being verbs, then you would choose the nominative case pronoun that comes after it. If, however, the very last word of the verb phrase is not on the being verb list, then it automatically makes it an action verb, and you would choose an objective case pronoun. So to walk you through it one more time. First, look for any prepositional phrases. If you have a prepositional phrase and must choose a pronoun in it, make it objective. If you do not have to make a pronoun choice in the prepositional phrase, then move on to the next step. Step 2 is to look for the subject. If the subject is a pronoun choice, make it nominative. If, however, you do not have to make a pronoun choice in either the prepositional phrase or the subject place, then move on to the next step. Step 3 says to look for the complete verb again. Is the verb action or being? I've given you a list of the being verbs. But when doing this, remember to only look at the last word of the verb phrase. If the pronoun choice is after a being verb, make it nominative. If the pronoun choice is after an action verb, make it objective. Now, assuming that you have written down the order of operations or the chart that I told you to, I can now walk you through some example sentences. So to begin with sentence number 1, I'm going to look for any and all prepositional phrases. I see here that I have to the party and with Chase. Neither of my prepositional phrases forced me to choose a pronoun. So now I'm going to move on to step 2, which is to look for my subject. And I see that my subject is right here. Since I have to choose a pronoun inside the subject place, I look at my list, I know it must be nominative, and therefore I choose I. I'm done. Sentence number 2. Once again, look for my prepositional phrases. For the kids, by they and them. This time, I have to choose a pronoun inside the prepositional phrase. So look at your list. I'm choosing an objective pronoun, so I would choose them. It definitely was Bob and I or me at the dance last night. Look for my prepositional phrases. At the dance. Nope, nothing there. I find my subject. Nope, nothing there. So now I move on to step 3, which is to look for my verb. I want to make sure I have my full verb. Was is the full verb. That is the only word, so it must also be the last word. I'm going to check my being verb list. Yep, it's on there. So therefore, the pronoun choice after it must be nominative. So that means I would choose I. Number 4, of recognition. Nothing there. Mr. Smoot, nothing there. Verb is gave. Gave is not on the being verb list, so when I choose the pronoun after it, I'm going to choose the objective pronoun. Number 5. In the office is my prepositional phrase. Assistant is my subject. Complimented is my verb. Complemented is not on the being verb list, so the pronoun that I choose after it must be objective. Him is objective. Number 6. At Maggiano's is my prepositional phrase. It is the subject. Was is the verb. Was is a being verb because it's on the list. Therefore, the pronoun that comes after it must be nominative. The correct choice then would be he. Her counselor will ask she or her questions about life. About life is my prepositional phrase. My subject is counselor. My verb is will ask. Now notice I have 2 words there, so I'm only going to look at the last word, ask. It's not on the being verb list, therefore it must be an action verb. Therefore, the pronoun we are going to choose is objective, which would be her. Number 8. As a token is a prepositional phrase. Of his love is a prepositional phrase. Fill is the subject. Gave is the verb. Gave is not on the being verb list, which means it must be action. Therefore, the pronoun we are going to choose is objective, which would be her. Number 9. Between the girls is a prepositional phrase. Now this is interesting because notice this. Notice these little commas here. This indicates that these words right here are replacing girls. So theoretically, girls as well as Jane and she or her are all inside this prepositional phrase. So inside a prepositional phrase, we choose objective case pronouns. So therefore, we would choose her. Melissa made he or him lasagna to eat for dinner. For dinner is a prepositional phrase. To eat is an infinitive. Melissa is my subject. Made is the verb. It's an action verb because it's not in the being verb list, so therefore I must choose objective, which would be him. Notice that for every sentence I walked through the order of operations and it worked perfectly. There will be no exceptions to this rule. Always follow the guidelines and you will be successful. Now notice we did not do any sentences on who or whoever, whom or whomever. So I will go through that now. Remember that who, whoever is nominative and whom, whomever is objective. Now, I want you to follow the same order of operations, but before you can do that, if the sentence reads, who or whom is going to buy a gift, you must turn the question into a statement in order for it to work the way that I've taught you. So replace who or whom with Bob or Sally or Tom or Cliff or whomever you would like. So notice I wrote here, Bob is going to buy a gift. Ask yourself how Bob functions in the sentence. Is Bob in the prepositional phrase? If it is, replace it with whom. If Bob is the subject, replace it with who. What kind of a verb is in the sentence? Once again, if it is a being verb, replace it with who, and if it's an action verb, replace it with whom. So here are a couple of examples. To who or whom did you give the book? So we would write it, to Bob did you give the book? Well, that doesn't make any sense, so you must rewrite it so it does make sense. Remember I told you need to make it a statement. So I rewrite the sentence to say, you did give the book to Bob. So we ask ourselves, how does Bob function in the sentence? Go through your steps. Let's start out. Is it in a prepositional phrase? It sure is. So therefore, which word would we replace it with? Whom would be the correct answer. Let's look at the next one. Who or whom will you ask to help with this work? Bob, will you ask to help with this work? Once again, that does not make any sense. So if I rewrite it, you will ask Bob to help with this work. We need to ask how Bob functions in the sentence. Let's go through the steps. Is it in a prepositional phrase? Well, to help is an infinitive, and with his work is a prepositional phrase. So no, it's not. Is it the subject of the sentence? You is the subject, so therefore it's not. So let me find my verb. My verb is will ask. What kind of a verb do I have? Well, once again, I look at the very last word, which is ask. It's not on the being verb list, so therefore Bob must function as an objective case pronoun, which would be whom, and that would be your correct answer. Okay, so let's do one final practice together. To who or whom will you sing that song? Well, to Bob will you sing that song? That doesn't make any sense. You will sing that song to Bob. Well, if you notice, to Bob is in a prepositional phrase right away. Which word works inside a prepositional phrase? Yes, that's correct. It's whom. That song was performed for who or whom? That song was performed for Bob. For Bob, once again, is a prepositional phrase. Inside the prepositional phrase again, we choose whom. It definitely was Bob, and who or whom? Well, we don't have any prepositional phrases in that sentence. My subject is it. My verb is was. Is that a being verb? It sure is. So therefore, the words that come after it must be nominative case. So the correct answer would be who. Number 4. For that decision is a prepositional phrase. Bob is responsible is the rest of the subject. So Bob is the subject of the sentence. We replace Bob with who. Number 5. Bob should I blame for this? Well, that doesn't make sense. So instead I could write, I should blame Bob for this. For this is a prepositional phrase. Once again, I should blame Bob. My subject is I. My verb is should blame. What kind of a verb is blame? Blame is an action verb because it's not on the being verb list, so therefore I would choose whom. The teacher blamed whoever or whomever she wanted. She wanted is a subject and a verb, but we also have another subject-verb combination. Blamed is an action verb because it's not on the being verb list, so therefore we would have no choice but to choose the objective form whomever. Number 7. Who or whom have you told about the meeting? Well, that doesn't make any sense. So you have told Bob about the meeting. About the meeting is my prepositional phrase. You is the subject. Have told is the verb. Told is an action verb. So therefore, you have told Bob means that we choose the objective form, which would be whom. Number 8. In that book, who or whom is the main character? Well, here's my prepositional phrase. Bob is the main character. This is my subject. So which word replaces Bob? It would be who. And finally, number 9. Melissa, who or whom everyone adores, is my child. The subject is Melissa. Now notice the commas here again. This functions just like we did previously. These words replace Melissa. If Melissa is the subject, which is nominative case, then we would have to choose who as the replacement word because it also is the nominative case. Good luck, everyone!